Kim, I know you've gone through some devastating health issues in the last couple of years, and at the same time been kind of addressing this topic. And I'm wondering how has this topic, how has self-compassion helped you kind of get through the things that you went through during the last couple of years?
Yeah, well, thank you. So I'll tell the brief story just to give context. So we're recording this in May of 2015, and not quite 2 years ago, so July of 2013. So not quite 2 years.
Okay.
I was diagnosed with breast cancer, and very shocked. And I found the lump myself. Went to the doctor the next day, and found out that it was actually the most aggressive kind that there is. And so the good news was it hadn't spread, and so that was a total blessing. But it was a kind that needed pretty radical treatment. So I had a lumpectomy, and then I had chemotherapy, and then I had radiation.
Okay.
And so that all took about 9 months or so. And so then I was all excited because in March of 2014, I was done. It was on March 3rd, which is my sister's birthday. That's why I always remember. And I thought, oh, finally, I get back to my life. And I get to resume. In fact, the day after I finished, I went back to my gym and re-signed up. And I went to the gym like a couple of times in a couple of days because I had missed that because I was so sick. And 4 days later, I noticed that I started having trouble breathing deeply. I wasn't really getting tired or anything, but I just kind of took a deep breath and I couldn't breathe all the way down, and I thought that was odd. So I called the doctor. I went in the next day, and they didn't really notice anything right away, but like 2 weeks later, they were like, oh, we think you might have walking pneumonia. And so they gave me antibiotics, but those didn't work at all, 2 sets of them. And so then they started down a whole nother path, which was that an incredibly rare, and we're talking like 1 to 2% of people who've had chemotherapy and radiation, they're not sure if it's a combo or just one, develop really an incredibly serious progressive lung disease where your lungs are scarred. And the scarring on the inside of them causes you to not be able to take in very much oxygen, and 2, once it's in there, it has trouble getting the rest of your body. And so within a period of just a couple of months, I, like in May, so that would have been, I had a problem in March, and then by May, I'd been diagnosed with pulmonary fibrosis, which is a terminal lung disease.
Yeah.
And so it's devastating, in so many ways. And I deteriorated rapidly, in the sense of like by June I had to use oxygen occasionally because I just wasn't getting enough oxygen just by breathing. And so what this is a supplemental oxygen. So all it is it's oxygen that's sort of supercharged. And so normal, when you breathe air, 21% of it is oxygen.
Right.
But that's not enough for me, and so I have a machine that's down the hallway that takes out all the nitrogen in the air, and it sends, I don't know what it is now, but it depends on what level you're at, but like maybe 30 or 40% oxygen to me. So I'm just, it's not breathing for me, I'm just breathing in oxygen. And that keeps me healthy and at levels that are okay. But I have to carry it around everywhere. I have a portable unit that I use when I walk around. I can't walk very fast at all. And there's many, many things that I can no longer do. So because of that, I had to close my counseling practice, and I could no longer teach. I used to teach at college and graduate school, and just a whole lot of other things. So it was a very rapid thing. So by January, I had closed down my counseling practice, and just trying to even just get used to everything that was happening so fast.
So quickly, yeah.
And like every doctor, seriously, that I've met has told me they've never had a patient that had this happen. That they've heard of it and they know about it, but not one You're like, time after time, you're like, oh my gosh. And so, it's so shocking, and it's the grief and the loss is just enormous.
Yeah.
And, but your original question was that, how has self-compassion helped? And I have to say it's helped so much because, there's so many levels of things that happen when something this devastating happens, and especially when it happens so rapidly, because you don't even know what's going on, and then you're just all the things that you have to do when you have something like that. And so I kind of decided, it wasn't really hard to decide because I already relate to myself this way, but I just decided, I'm going to be a good friend to myself. So the way that I talk to myself, the way that I take care of myself, what I say I can do and what I can't do, the way that I've actually been able to embrace and accept a ton of support. Like, I'm very, very blessed. I have a lot of people that love me and friends, and a lot of people offer to do things for me. And I just say, bring it on, you bet. And so anything you want to do to help me, I will accept.
You're open for
help.
it.
I need it. I mean, there's things that I can't do.
Yeah.
So I get really tired.
That's really interesting because it seems like it's hard for folks to receive help, especially when you've been in a caregiving role for so long.
Right.
And then, but you seem really bold even in accepting that, and that's great. You just don't meet many people who have the ability to do that. Is self-compassion part of that?
I think it is. I really do, because it's just being kind. Like, if you think about it, if you have a friend and you really want to help them out, they're going through something horrible and you feel helpless and what can I do? But boy, you could make them a meal, or you could come over and weed their yard, or you could come over and fold their laundry, or you could, like, you would want to do that for somebody. And so it's kind of the same way as, like, I need all of that help. And so I'm graciously accepting all the help that people are giving me.
Yeah.
Because I'm a friend to myself. I'm not an enemy.
Yeah. And you're letting others be compassionate with you.
Yes.
Yeah.
And honestly, it helps them too, because people feel like really bad. I mean, it's kind of like a horror story.
Yeah.
And you know me, and you know me in the community. Like,
I don't know what you're talking about.
I'm really active.
Yeah, you are. You are. It's a big change.
A lot of people know me, and I've done public speaking for 20 years. I mean, I a lot of people, they want to help because they feel so bad.
Yeah.
So it actually, I don't do it to help them. I think it's a nice benefit that it does.
Sure.
I do it because I need help.
Because you need help, and you're able to acknowledge that, and the fear, the anxiety, or the maybe, I don't know, pride or whatever doesn't get in the way of being able to receive.
Well, it doesn't now. I do want to say that I had a bout in the very beginning of when I had to start using oxygen, and I just argued with my doctor. I was not a nice patient at all. And, he didn't really explain it well to me at all.
Okay.
He just said, you have to be on oxygen, like from nothing to, you have to be on oxygen. You can't walk out of here without oxygen. I'm like, oh, excuse me? And I go, when do I have to use it? Whenever you're walking, whenever you're moving. I'm like, excuse me?
Yeah.
And I said, I'm not doing that at work. I'm not going to do that. And because he wanted me to push around one of those carts that like little things that old people use. And I'm like, I was 57. I'm like, I'm not doing that.
Yeah.
I'm not going to do that. And he just like stared at me. And he goes, well, they have it in a backpack that you can carry around. I said, okay, I'll do that. But boy, when I first started wearing it, I felt ashamed. And like, seriously, I had done nothing. I mean, nothing wrong. In fact, to be honest, I was like a warrior fighting cancer. I mean, like, I didn't cause that to happen. That wasn't my fault. I mean, I didn't smoke and cause it, or, whatever.
Right.
Not that would, but, but I still felt ashamed.
Yeah.
And when I would wear it, I couldn't look people in the eye in the beginning, and I wouldn't go to church, and I would go to a grocery store 5 miles away to make sure I didn't run across anybody. It's really hard.
Mm-hmm.
And that took, I don't know how long it took, at least a month. I mean, we're talking a while.
A while to process
and
through that.
It's not like I'm totally comfortable now, but honestly, I don't really think about it anymore.
Yeah.
I really don't. I don't even notice it, which if you had told me that back then, I would have said, that is insane. How could I not think about it? But it was really hard. Yeah, it was tough.
It's such a contrast between what you were doing when you were the resilience and the powering through, trying to get through the cancer treatments and all of that.
Yeah.
And then to have an effect come from the treatments, the things that were there to help you get healthy again were actually destroying your lungs.
I know.
And that's such a huge transition. How did, and I keep tying it back to the issue of self-compassion.
Yeah.
It's, how did self-compassion help you transition when you had the feelings of shame, when you had the backpack and the oxygen?
Well, I think at first I would say to myself, and honestly it didn't really help, I got to be honest with you.
Okay.
At first I would say, you know what, you don't have any reason to be ashamed, you didn't cause this, you know, if anything you should have empathy. But I honestly, I was worried. I'll tell you what I was worried about, and I think it showed my own inside, to be honest.
Okay.
Which is, I was worried that people would look at me and go, she probably smoked all of her life.
Oh,
that's really what I thought. People are going to judge me, and, you know, and so, like, why did I think that? That's ridiculous, okay?
Yeah.
Because that isn't, people who have things like this, that's rarely even true. So I had to look at my own, like, well, I guess you're a critical person on the inside about, never knew I thought that, right? But then I was like, no, you know what? But I know that that's not true. And actually, I deserve compassion. like I deserve empathy for what I'm going through. And I think just over time, just talking to myself like that is what helped.
That's
but
good.
It wasn't that way at first. I mean, really, it was rough.
Well, that's honest. I appreciate you saying that, because I think a lot of people might feel like they can just be compassionate with themselves and it's kind of done. But you're suggesting, even in times where it's that bad, that bleak, and that difficult to transition, that there's effort and there's you have to put, you know, energy into it and be intentional about it.
Definitely.
And it wins over time, but that it's hard. It's hard to do. It
wins over time. I love that expression. Thank you. Yeah, and that kind of thing happens all the time. I mean, like, not getting used to that specific thing, but several times a week, I will have a wave of grief just wash over me about something I can't do anymore, or something that's so hard that, like, I wouldn't have even noticed before. And what I do, honestly, I just cry. I do. And, you know, I don't always, if I'm, like, with somebody or something, like, let's say, and I can't. I mean, like, if I'm in a session or something.
Yeah, not a good time to...
Like, if I'm at the store, I don't necessarily do that, right?
Sure.
But if I can, I'll just... Like, I went to a graduation party of a friend of mine, and it was a lovely party. But there were two people there that I had not seen for, like, 15 years. And, of course, people are just kind, and they look at you like, oh, my gosh, what happened? And then you tell the story. I started crying, and it was so hard, and then I just cried all the way home.
Yeah.
About how hard that was. But the good part was that when I let myself do that, it just kind of cleanses out of me, and I feel better. I feel lighter. So if I can, I just let it be there. I just cry, and then it goes away. I'm not saying it doesn't come back, you know, in another instance, but if I push it down and I try to not have it, it'll just take me down.
Yeah.
So.
Well, I like, first off, thank you for being honest about what your experience is like and what you've gone through. It makes this all much more relevant to people, I think. And what I'm liking about what you're saying is that this is not a solution to never suffering.
No.
This is a way of life so that it doesn't add to the things that we suffer with. I guess maybe that's a way of thinking about it.
Yeah.
You'll still grieve. It
actually helps you transition through them easier. But yeah, I mean, I grieve almost every day in some small way.
Yeah. Because I think of the other options and some of the clients I've worked with over the years and some of the things I do. You know, stuffing it down, just not letting yourself feel, trying to be strong.
Right.
Really, it's kind of it's probably a weakness because we're avoiding what we're feeling. But I would imagine the self-compassion, if it helps you get in touch with what's going on the inside, you're going to feel more.
Yeah, right.
It's going to help you feel. It's not going to keep you from feeling.
Yeah.
But it's feeling what you need to feel as opposed to making things worse.
Yeah,
Got it.
exactly.
Okay. Well, thank you for sharing.
You're welcome. Like, I was thinking of a funny thing. I remember one day, part of that, it's not as bad now, but I used to be on a medication that caused lots of water retention. So, like, my ankles would just swell like crazy, and it's better now. Not all the way better, but it's better now. I remember one day I came home from wherever I was, and we got a recliner so that I could put my feet up, and so I had my feet up, and they still just looked, it was hideous how swollen they were. And I couldn't put shoes on. It was bad. And I just looked at him. My husband was sitting nearby. I just kind of spontaneously looked at my feet, and I went, poor me. That's just so hard. That's just such a bummer. And he goes, did you just say poor me? Yes, I did. And we started laughing. But I mean, it just kind of came out like, oh, that's so sad.
Yeah.
You know?
You weren't... Yeah, it's funny. People will talk about the being into poor me, that it's a victim stance or something, but that's not what you were doing.
No, it wasn't.
You were empathizing with yourself the way you would have with your husband if he had the swollen ankles.
Exactly.
Okay.
Rather than like saying, well, you must be doing something wrong. Maybe you're having too much salt. Maybe you're this. Maybe you're that. It's like, no, I'm on this medication that gives me a lot of swelling. It's like awful. So...
Well, I like how you've gone on with a positive attitude, but you're still real about, facing the grief and all the feelings that come along with grieving and the losses. Facing the reality of what this diagnosis means. Sounds like that's all part of the process, but
it is.
That self-compassion helps you get through it.
It really does. It really does. Yeah.
If nothing else, it doesn't make it worse.
No, I think it makes it much better.
That's good.
And to be honest, I'm always looking for, I didn't feel this way the first 6 months, okay, so just know that, okay. It was very hard. I just grieved and cried, and I was just, like, in disbelief. Like, this can't be happening. Like, I went through a very intense period of just trying to figure out what was going on.
Okay.
I'm in a better place now, but my heart goes out to people that have pulmonary fibrosis. I mean, it's a desperate group, and you can understand why. And so I just think, gosh, if there's some way that maybe I could reach out to give them hope or practical help, or just faith in Christ, or, to just not just be so dismal about it. Got
it. That's a powerful way to kind of redirect your experience into something constructive and positive. Right. It's one of the things I appreciate about you, Kim, a lot. That's kind of who you are, but the the ability to write something like you have and utilize this experience as a way to share that information with people, I think is powerful. What would you say to someone who's gone through a real difficult time like yours, based upon what you've learned and maybe even applying some of these self-compassion techniques? What would you say?
Well, I actually wrote out a couple of things about that, because I think that's so important. I didn't know if you were going to ask me that or not, but so I'm going to find my little thing there where I wrote it out.
Sure, yeah.
I guess because I want to say this to people, no matter what your experience. I mean, we're talking about health issues, but gosh, you could apply this to anything. I mean, because life is really hard. I mean, it's really rough, and we go through things that nobody ever thinks you'll go through. Now, there's also really wonderful things too, right? And there's great joys as well. But there's rough stuff, okay? So, kind of, here's some of the things that I thought of was, first one is, don't give up. Don't give up. I mean, even if it's different, even if it's awful, even if it's horrible, even if it's, far worse than what I'm going through, actually, because there's a lot of things that are worse. Don't give up. And I would say cling to God, because He's there. And He cares deeply about what I'm going through, what you're going through, what people who are listening are going through. He cares deeply about you. He grieves more than I do, actually. And I would say get the support that you need. Whatever that is, whether it's you need physical support, you need emotional, just, friends, people to talk to, a support group, people that have what you have, whatever your life situation is, people who know, get whatever that support is. If that means getting a house cleaner, if that means, having somebody prepare meals for you, or If that means getting extra childcare for whatever the extra stresses you're under, get the support you need for sure. And accept help when it's offered. I'm now an expert at that. And honestly, I got to be an expert because I had to. I had to. And I'm grateful, very grateful. Okay, so this one's real important. Is I would say to try to still be yourself, even if it's in a different way. So, kind of what so many things I can't do anymore. But what so I kind of focus on what I can do that's still myself. So, for instance, I am doing this kind of interview with you, okay? I'm trying to reach people in different ways. I have a blog. It's at kimfredrickson.com. I have a blog, and it's on self-compassion in the real life. It's about self-compassion in real life. So I write usually just one post a week. I love interacting with people when they make comments, and I love sharing really practical, kind of short information to help people. So that's different, than in my counseling office, but it's something I'm still me when I do that. So just still be yourself, but in a different way is what I would say. Because that, you can still be you.
Got it.
Yeah.
Okay.
And then I would say you still have a lot to give and offer. Let's say a person is going through the death of a loved one, or the just horrific stuff with difficulties with children, or just all kinds of things. Sometimes you can't give anything during those times at all. Not at all. And the time will come later where you feel better, but give what you can give. So if that even just means saying thank you to someone, or smiling at somebody, or yesterday I was at Round Table Pizza, and they have this salad bar that I love, so I was there and I was working on something, and I'm telling you, this waitress was she was like a super waitress. I'd never seen anybody like her. She did everything. She did the counter. And so she walked by, and I just said, "Excuse me." And she thought I was going to ask her for something, and I just said, "I've just got to tell you, I've never seen a harder worker in my entire life." And she just beamed. And she goes, "Really?" I said, "Yeah, I saw you do this, this, and this, and this. And I just wanted to tell you, I just really appreciate all that you do." Gosh, thank you. Well, what did that cost me? I was thinking it, and all I did was say it. So even if it's something like that, you still have a person, even if they're going through difficult times, they still have a lot to give and a lot to offer. Okay, so with whatever you're going through, all of us have a choice whether to become bitter and depressed, or to work through all the difficult emotions and losses, but be a positive impact in the ways that you're able to. To me, I came to a fork in the road, and I'm you can become this bitter person that is angry at God, and that wonders why me and all this business, or you can go, why not me? It happens to people, so why not me? And God has given me a lot of resiliency. I'm pretty resilient, and He's given me tons of support, and if I can be some kind of a shining light or give some kind of spark of hope, I would like to do that. I wish that this hadn't happened. I wish I'd have a miraculous cure. I have people praying for that all over the world, for a miraculous cure. I've had people doing healing prayer for me. Anybody who wants to do that, bring it on, okay? I wish that this wasn't happening, and I wish it would change.
Yeah.
But even if it doesn't, I would like to at least be a positive influence. So I would just say that to everybody, that it's normal to go through a whole period of time. It's, the bigger the loss, the longer the period of time, where you are confused, and you don't even know what's going on. You don't even know your name, and you're beset with grief and anger and bitterness and depression, and that's all normal. But just don't camp out there. Try to work through it. And I think self-compassion helps you work through it. I really do, so you don't get stuck.
Got it.
I think there's anything else. I just say that God has not given up on you, and don't give up. Don't give up. That's what I would say.
That's great, Kim. Any last thoughts on what you would say to somebody who's they want to do this, but they're not really sure how, or they're struggling with how to do this? Any advice you would give to those folks?
'Folks? Yeah, absolutely. So, a couple of things. So, I like to think of my website as a place to get some help. So it's kimfredrickson.com. So KIMFREDRICKSON.com. And I actually have some of the compassionate recordings on there. I know people that tell me they just go on there and listen to them, just things that would encourage you. There's helpful articles, and my blog, I hope, would be a great source of encouragement, because it's so weird. Even though real life is hard, I'm a fan of real. I'm a fan of real, because when we go into denial, there's no place to go. There's no answers to when you're in denial. And when you're in real life, then at least you can go to God, you can get help, you can work through things. So that's what I like about my blog, is that I try to be real. And then, of course, my book, I actually think is just a wonderful resource. I do. I think it's very good about, kind of teaching you about self-compassion, helping you understand all the reasons that you have trouble with it, because like most people do. Like, if you have trouble with it, like, you're normal, okay? And so it goes through all the reasons why it's difficult to be self-compassionate, and then you kind of go, oh, well, no wonder. And actually just finding out why helps you be compassionate, because you're like, no wonder I have trouble with that. And then I take you through, ways to start interacting with yourself, and also to do self-care. And I have a new chapter in this book that I have to tell you I love. And it's on self-compassion and with your emotions. And so it's really talking about how we learn how to be like toward ourselves, like be with ourselves based on usually how we were raised. So if you had parents or grandparents or teachers or whatever that weren't compassionate with you, that's how you're going to treat yourself. So you kind of have to learn a new way to be, like, I call it a self-compassion coach with yourself. And so I go through all about that, and to me, there's a lot of really helpful questions and things to say to yourself. And then I teach self-soothing, how to help yourself soothe and calm down. That's compassionate. And I have a section in there on how to use this with groups. I actually think it would be a wonderful thing to do with other people. And I have questions at the end of each chapter that would be good to talk with groups about. So, and I also have my CD of all those recordings that are available too. So, and they're available like on iTunes under my name. Okay. You can just search under my name and you can download it off of iTunes. So, to me, information is super important, but information without application that's like super easy to use is actually not very helpful. And so I try to be very practical, and I try to have something you can use like right then. Got it. So my heart goes out to anybody that's listening to this or watching it, because there is like totally hope. Just like you learn to do other things, you can learn to be self-compassionate.
That's really good, Kim. Thanks so much for sharing all this information with us. And
absolutely. Thank you. You're wonderful to talk with, of course. You're my friend. You ask such good questions, and you summarize so well, and you use different words, and I think of, well, that's a great way to say that, words that I wouldn't necessarily use, so I really appreciate it.
Well, it's been a pleasure getting to know more about the topic and the book. And again, if people want to contact you or they want to get in touch with you, they can do so at your blog at kimfredrickson.com. Okay.
Yeah, and they can. There's a contact page there as well.
So. Got it. Kim, thank you.
You're very welcome. Thank you.
Appreciate you sharing your information with everybody.
I appreciate you wanting to know.
Take care.
Bye.